would it have been better to have been born blind? Or, do you get 5 or 6 years of memories seared into your brain about everything from color and what people look like, right? And like all of these other things. And I've asked that question to a lot of people that I know without sight, and the answers always vary. So I'm just curious about your take on it.
Well, that's very interesting because I've thought about that too, and I don't know the answer to that, but I can speculate from Ralph's standpoint, having seen for 5 years gave him the ability to strengthen his mental capability of visualizing. So in other words, when he was completely blind, he had to use all of his other senses. Most importantly, I think hearing and feeling and touch. But I think because he was able to see at one point, he may have used that in his library of visualization. I don't know, but I do know that he had a gift for memory. So throughout his life and walking about town, he would memorize how many steps, where the buildings were, where everything was, and he memorized voices. He recalled everybody's voice. I don't know how he did that, but he did. And it amazed me because he would, even if they had a cold, he would still know who it was.
Well, they say that when one sense goes, the others become sharpened.
Right.
But to this point, like you make the point in the movie, and I don't know if one of your family members elaborate on it or not, but this guy was like a bat, right? I mean, like echolocation. He could figure out where he was by footfalls and not just counting, but the way the sounds of the town reverberated back to him.
The other interesting thing, he refused to use a cane. He wanted to be as normal as possible. And if he had a cane, well, he would almost have to admit that he was blind. And the other thing, he refused to learn Braille.
Wow, now that's controversial today.
Now, I knew that when I was making the documentary, but I didn't know why he refused to learn Braille. And then I learned from the family, well, if he learned Braille, he would have to kind of admit that he was blind. And he didn't really want to do that. He didn't look at himself as handicapped. And he didn't want people to focus on that.
That's just laying a little pipe so people understand. You got a 12-year-old kid who wants to build a car, who is completely blind and has been for 7 years and is filled with all the confidence necessary to believe he can make that happen. So go ahead and walk me up to, I guess, perfect circle at this point.
Okay, well, high school, not so much of a challenge because he seemed to get through that pretty well. In fact, even becoming the manager of the basketball team. And building the first electric light in Hagerstown for graduation, 1908. He built a sign. He wired it from a generator that he got, and then he wired his family's home, and then the town got wired up for electric. And college was a bit of a challenge. He wanted to get his engineering degree. University of Michigan had a great school.
Yep.
But they turned him down because they didn't know how to teach a blind man engineering. And no fault of theirs because, well, how do you do that?
There's no playbook for this.
Yeah. So his older cousin, Neva, took him she had a fellowship at the University of Pennsylvania. They went. He packed enough bags for a whole semester. He was that confident that he was going to convince the dean of engineering.
Who was the dean? Remember?
Henry Spangler.
Right, Spangler. Yeah,
Henry Spangler. And he met with Henry, and he wasn't quite convinced. And he had to talk to the faculty, and told Ralph, come back at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. I'll have an answer. But he had to talk to his faculty. How are we going to teach this student engineering? He's blind.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they all agreed, we'll let him try. And they all didn't think that he would last more than 2 weeks. But
they let him try precisely because they knew he'd fail.
Yeah, exactly. And anyway, he went through, he graduated, came back for his master's. He was the first blind student to graduate from the university and the first blind engineer on record in the United States. So that was great. Anyway, he came back to the family company. By that time, they were building internal combustion engines. So they evolved from the bicycle inspection car, the railroad inspection car, into the internal combustion engines.
As one does.
Yeah. In that time, with the cars were, and so it was the Teetor Hartley Motor Company. But then, 1918, World War I happens. Well, men are going off to war. Well, Ralph wanted to serve his country, but how? And he was accepted for civil service at the New York Shipbuilding Company. Well, this is kind of funny. They gave him an office, but they didn't give him a job. They didn't know what to do, or what are you going to do? Here, Ralph, you got an office. And he overheard them talking about a problem they had.
Because he can hear anything a mile away.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. He can hear anything a mile away, and he overhears a problem they have. They can't balance these turbine rotors in their torpedo boat destroyers. The boats are breaking apart at high speeds.
So people understand the incredible amount of torque being generated by these turbines. And if they're not perfectly in sync,
right,
it's like those sympathetic vibrations that could shake a bridge right to the point where it would collapse.
So he thought, hey, maybe they'll listen to me. So he told him, he said, I think I can figure out what the problem is. And they were, hey, come on, what do you know? You can't see anything. But he balanced drive shafts for race cars at Indy. And he knew that he could balance these by spinning the rotors in opposite directions.
Right.
Now,
who would
think
know
of that? I don't know.
Why did he know that?
I honestly don't know.
It had never been done.
I don't know. But he could touch and feel, and somehow they were balanced. Well, by that time, the war was ending, and there was no need for those destroyers. But the news picked up that story, and everyone was kind of blown away that this blind kid from Hagerstown fixed something that the top naval engineers couldn't. But anyway, those ships were used in World War II.
He actually solved the problem.
Yeah, he solved the problem.
By getting the turbines to spin counterclockwise and clockwise contemporaneously.
Yeah, amazing.
If you like what you heard,
and even if you don't,
won't you please,
pretty please,
subscribe?
Well, I hate to beg and I hate to plead, but please, pretty